C shape, F chord, pentatonic, and major scale position 4 or C shape, F chord. Get ready, because we're about to rock and or roll. Here we are in our worksheet, remembering that we have the top string on top. That's going to be the low E, the string closest to the ceiling. The high E, the one closest to the floor on the bottom. The 0 representing the open frets, the ones that we would not be fingering, putting our fingers on if indicated, but ringing them out. Frets 1, 2, 3, and so on. The ones that we would be fingering if indicated in this case by the orange items on down below. We're looking at the C shape now, but in the F chord position. Remembering and recapping that we started out with the C in the open position, and whenever you want to think about the C shape, because you're gonna remember it as a C shape, you want to think in your head the quiet part, C shape in the open position. You may not say in the open position, but you want that in your head so that when you move the C shape up, you can then move it to the new chords, and you can say it's a C shape in the open position, but actually a D chord or an E chord, or in this case, we're moving it up to the F chord. And the string that's determining that is this item on the A string is going to be the determining factor, the second one down from the top, the second to lowest string. So if we scroll down to the E, then we have this E, and this is F. Now we're on the F. And so this F is the thing that's going to be determining that this same C shape is now an F chord because we're putting our fingers on the strings that represent the notes in the F chord. We have the same problem in that these items which were open in the open position, therefore not requiring fingering, would require fingering if we wanted the same voicing of the F chord as the open position C chord. So you could look up how to do that. It's not too difficult. You could reach up here with your pinky and so on, but you don't need to do that in order for this to have value for multiple different reasons. One is that you can use different fingering, meaning you could like mute this string and ring these 3 out and get a voicing like that. And you can also use this to arpeggiate. So it's a useful skill, and you also want to know where you are on the neck of the guitar. So if someone was playing a song and they had F in the song, or the song was in the key of F, and possibly they're playing a big F over here or some variant. Oftentimes there's a lot of different variants even in the open position that people will try to do instead of having that big F chord, which is a little tough to reach sometimes. But in any case, you can come back over here and do some different voicings and different arpeggiating of the F, remembering that basically if you want to ring out the chords, you just need the 3 notes in order to do so. Let's break out the F then. If we look at our theory over here, we're going to say, all right, all we did is take all the chords. I've took it from F to F here. We say F to F, and then we just pull that on down here and say, here we go, F to F down here. And then we're going to do our whole half thing. So F to G is a whole step, G to A is a whole step, A to A sharp's the half step, A sharp to C whole step, C to D whole step, D to E whole step, E back then resounding to F. And notice that last step is it should resolve back to F. So there it is, and we'll be playing around the F. So then if you take these notes and we make basically our progression, F, G, A sharp, C, D, E, F. If we wanted to make a chord out of it, then the major chord, we would just skip every other note for 3 notes. F, skipping to A, skipping to C. So F, A, C should be over here represented. So we've got the F, then we got A, then we got C, F, A. So notice it repeats. Therefore, if you wanted to voice another chord and voice the same chord, you could start to finger your positions on anything that has the 3 notes, and you can get those higher voices, which is often useful when you're trying to play accompaniment with someone else that's playing a song out. You want to see how many different ways you can basically voice the same thing, and you don't even have to voice the same chord. You can hit any note in basically the arpeggio in different orders, and of course, we also, when playing the chord, do not have to play the lowest note being the root, in this case being F. We can play it in any order and just have a different voicing of those notes, which is nice because that'll give you some variety when you're playing with somebody else. So that's going to be the general idea there. And then, of course, if we're in the key of F, then We can number these. We could say this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the key of F. If we were trying to create a song in the key of F, we can use our major, minor, minor chords. So we can construct using a major F, a minor G, a minor A major A sharp, a major C, a minor D, and then the diminished that most people just drop off for the most part for most like popular songs. And so you don't have to worry about that typically. And then that's what you could basically use to construct. If you're playing in the most basic kind of all major chords, you would be doing the 1, 4, 5, the 1, 4, 5, the F, A sharp, and the C. And then you can practice arpeggiating if it were in the key of F by basically fingering the F here. You can also basically try to move this shape up to where you'd have basically an A sharp, and you can try to move it up as we move across to the C, of course. So you can basically, if you can move up from here to here as the song progresses and try to chase the chords to play the relevant notes and arpeggiate within it, or play your own versions of the chords or different voicings of them. Okay, so now let's take a look at, I'm going to unhide some cells to show you how this worksheet works. Putting my cursor on AI, I'm going to select on over to CM, right click and unhide. Unhide, and then we're looking now at the pentatonic shape. So here's the pentatonic shape, same shape we've been looking at before, but now we're just moving that shape up, starting it in this position, and it's still, I would call it position 4, but we're starting the position 4, it's position 4 in the key of F, which you could start to think of, you possibly could think of it as it is an F, a C-shaped position. It's a C-shaped position, which you can imagine now the pentatonic scale around, adding a few other notes around that C-shaped position that is now in the key of F. And you know that because if you put your shape here, you'd be pointing to that F position. And then if you can expand on the full shape of the pentatonic scale, now you can be doing different voicings as you're playing along with a song. You can put together other notes. And if you're trying to finger different chord positions and ring things out, you can try to add these other notes in it as well, just like you would in the open positions where you take one finger off and put one finger back on. You usually do it and say, that sounds neat. And then you can get into the theory as to why it would sound neat and whatnot. But you would think here, if you're playing in this area, you would think the next positions you would try to be playing on and seeing how it sounds if you're just going to ring it out and use your ear would be the items in the pentatonic scale as you add different voicings to, in essence, the F chord, or at least the notes that are going to be in the F pentatonic. And so that's another method that you can use. And then we can then imagine that we're going to move on out. And obviously, when you think about the theory of this, that means that we did the same thing we did up top, these 3 notes, and then these 2 are now the pentatonic. So we're talking these 3 notes, and then these, hold on a second, these 3 notes, and then these 2 are going to be the pentatonic, and then we'll add the last 2 for the major. So if we go into the major then, same position, so we could still try to think of this. I mean, if you were speaking to someone else and trying to tell them where you are on the guitar, obviously you'd be telling them, yeah, we're playing a song possibly in the key of F major, or some song that has an F in it. Let's say it's in F major, then you'd be wanting possibly to use this position. The next thing you're going to say, because if it's an F, you don't know where you can play that any basically 4 to 5 frets. You have basically everything you need to play, any key generally. So then the next thing is, well, how do I tell them where I'm going to be positioning, what the voicing is on the guitar? It's not like a piano. I can't just be like, well, it's up in the mid-range to the high. You'd have to say, well, one way you could say it is, well, it's a C position. It's my C-shaped position in the key of F. And then if you know that on your C, this is the key, the A string that designates what the chord is, then you could say, okay, I'm pointing right there, and then expand that to say, well, that also is my C-shaped F chord pentatonic position, my C-shaped F chord major position, and then you can expand with your hand in the same area. Try to arpeggiate just with the notes that are in the C shape, expand then to the notes that are going to be in the pentatonic scale, and then expand to the notes in the major, and try to see if you can basically build in that way. So you can see, just like, you're taking one of those things where you take the doll out and then there's another one inside all the time, right? The one at the bottom is going to be the C shape, expanding then to the pentatonic, expanding to the major scale. The safest thing to do be playing the arpeggio, the chord, expanding then to the pentatonic scale, then expanding to the major scale.